All right, I think we're cooking. Yeah. Yeah. All right, I think we're gonna go ahead and get started. Sorry, we were working through some technical difficulties, but I'll go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Logan. For those of you that don't know, I've obviously just finished my first year in real estate. I'm also for the past year, for the past 4 years, but including this year, I've been a student at UK, finishing out my degree. So part of my degree, it being an education degree, one of the things I had to do was student teach. So my professor was very kind to allow me to kind of do whatever I wanted to an extent. Not quite that simple, but basically an internship with Crystal Tao. So this is one of the classes. She wants me to be able to show that I've at least learned something while getting my degree. So I get to kind of share my experiences of this year and call it a class. But we'll go ahead and jump into it. I'll be a little interactive if you all will work with me some. We'll see. But some of the mistakes that I've made throughout my real estate career, there's been a lot of them. I'd like to jump a little bit into those mistakes here in a little bit. But there's one thing that I've learned, especially in this industry, is that failing and mistakes are very much a part of it. And I want to show you some of my favorite mistakes ever. I don't know if any of you all watch this show, but so basically he creates this ad and he shows it on a piece of paper and it says, "I can't be satisfied until you're satisfied. Let me make your dreams come true." And he puts it on this car. And this is how it comes out to look. Now, I don't know if any of you all have made a mistake this extreme, but yeah, that's a pretty extreme mistake. And then some other mistakes, maybe some of you have taken some pictures that weren't flattering. Maybe you're like me and you gloat about your videos a little too much, or maybe you're just awkwardly standing there at a house and you don't know how to get into the lockbox and you look like a fool, like this guy. So mistakes are very much a part of what I've done. I mean, I've made phone calls to real estate agents thinking that they could be clients and them telling me they're real estate agents, and that's super embarrassing. I've called people that were other agents' clients and not realized it until I called them and got a nasty call from another agent. I've almost gotten clients that were having signed with another agent, and yeah, so I mean, there's lots of mistakes to be made, and I've probably made some of them, and I'm sure you all have made some of them too at this point. But so one of the biggest things, or one of the key things that I think I've learned the most about here is solving problems. And if you don't know, I'm with another agent. Her name's Crystal Tao. She's probably one of the better agents I've ever seen something like this. So when people ask me what I do, I usually tell them that I solve problems, and that's basically our whole job. Some of the things that I've learned about solving problems, for one, they happen. You just got to be prepared for them. Sharon, I think I can still hear you. You
Sorry.
might need to mute yourself. No, you're okay. So one of the things that I've learned about solving problems is that they're kind of an inevitable at certain points. At first, when I got into this business, I really let them bother me. But they just kind of happen sometimes. There's a lot of moving parts in a transaction. I can't help that my lender didn't ask my client for the right paperwork. I can't help that my clients didn't submit the right paperwork to the title office. I can ask them all day long and push them, but sometimes mistakes are just going to slip through. I can be all over them about it and be annoying, which I've done, but sometimes mistakes just happen and you're going to get a delayed closing. I've learned it sucks, but you can't sweat it sometimes, and you just got to work through those mistakes. I'll give you an example. We had a closing not long ago where the wife, she was pregnant and she was due to have her baby around the same time that the house was going to close. So they sent us all the paperwork to get signed beforehand. And They send us all the packets and stuff, and I go to the closing and give them all the paperwork that they sent us, and they said, "This isn't everything we sent you." I said, "Yes, it was." And they said, "No, this isn't everything you sent you. We don't even have the signed deed." You know, a big part of a real estate closing, right? And they're getting mad at me and upset at me that I don't have it. Well, their office admin at this closing office goes back and looks at what she sent us. She didn't send me everything. So I didn't get mad at them. I didn't get frustrated. Wife's about to go into labor. So that was a challenge we had to jump through, but mistakes happen and you're going to go through challenges in this industry. And that was a big challenge to overcome. And there will be many, many, many more. So here's some of the ways that I deal with them. I had come to the conclusion that there's almost always, and the reason I say almost, there's almost always a solution for any problem that you come across. I don't know if there's if I've been presented issues in this industry or a problem, I've almost always found a solution. The reason I say almost is because I find the solutions every time, but sometimes, you know, the client doesn't want to go with it and they don't want to do it. And we had one not long ago. He was $1 million buyer. I'll just put it that way. And the interest rate that they ended up getting did not match the contract. So what at that point meant that the contract was null and void, right? So we put 3% on the contract. The rate came back at like 3.2. This is months ago. So at that point, they know that they can walk away because they're within that first 5 days of securing their financing. Instead of, you know, the sellers were going to come down some to make the payment exactly the same, and they just said no and walked away. Felt like that was a pretty good solution, but that's why I say always or almost always. At the end of the day, like I said, it's not the end of the world. There's always going to be more things that come about, and I'd say whenever you're presented with problems, finding the solutions is probably where I've learned the most, and problems is where I've learned the most. And the ones that don't work out, sometimes I learn more from those than the ones that do, because now I know next time when I'm presented with the same problem, know exactly what I'm going to do. And that's kind of my next point. Own it and learn from it. It sucks, but sometimes you got to move on and take it in the teeth. So if there's another thing that I've learned in this business, it's that relationships are key. It's our business to be in relationships. And what do I mean by this? So I have two kinds of relationships that I like to look for in this business, and that's client-based, which probably sounds a little self-explanatory. I want people that are going to support me and bring me clients. I want clients of my own. I want to go out there and get clients. I want those clients to refer me clients. I want all those kinds of relationships. But I think there's another kind of relationship that we as agents forget about a lot of times, and those are the professional-based relationships. And I want to talk a little bit more about those here in just a minute, which I've learned to be a very, very good. So when I talk client-based, this is what I mean. I think that, like I said, it's kind of self-explanatory. This is your sphere, your friends, your family, the people that are your past clients, the ones that are you're working with right now, the ones that are going to continue to bring you business, the ones that will bring you business down the road. Those are your client base. That's your sphere. That is where your money's coming from. Everybody needs those kinds of relationships. That's obvious. This is the one that I think is super underrated, and I've learned quite a lot about in the past year. Agent relationships. I'll say that the hardest conversations that I have on a daily basis are probably with other agents. A lot of them are emotional. A lot of them react strongly in situations. Not all of them are easy to get along with. I've never had any issues with any in our office, but I won't say any names, but we've all seen them. There's agents that are just tough to get along with. These are tough conversations sometimes, but at the end of the day, if you burn bridges with agent relationships, what if you've got a client that really, really wants a house and the listing agent is an agent that you've burned a bridge with? What are you going to do? There's not a lot you can do sometimes because that client or that agent's probably not going to hold you in a very high light with their client. So they're really, really underrated relationships. I would never burn a bridge with an agent. And I've been upset with them and I've talked through it with them, but I'd never burn a bridge with them. So real estate professionals, that's another super underrated one. Anytime, and I know we all get annoyed with lenders that reach out to us, and they do it all the time. Lenders reach out to us and they want to talk to us. They want us to use them. I mean, how many calls a week do you think you get from a lender? A few? Yeah, I probably get 2 or 3 at least a week, or a message. Yeah. All wanting to meet. I will almost always say yes. One, because I like free food and I'm chunky, and they'll buy it for you or a cup of coffee. But two, I am at a point where I've realized that I will hear out any real estate professional, not gonna be home inspector, lender, anything like that. I'll hear out all real estate professionals because I want the best services for my clients at this point. If I end up meeting with one of these guys and I like them more than the ones that are in my lineup, I want the best services for my clients and I'm going to give them the best services. If I feel like they can do a better job, maybe I'll give them one client, give them a trial run and see how they operate. If they operate better than the ones I had before, then I'm going to replace them. And then mentors, which is another big thing that I want to talk about. Mentors can come in the form of coaches, someone you look up to. That's another big relationship that we have and that I've learned a lot from personally. So the agent relationships, like I've said, and I've talked a lot about them, don't underestimate them. They're really hard, but they can make a big difference in your business. If you have a relationship with a listing agent and you give the same offer that another client or another agent does, and that agent doesn't have a relationship with them, guess what? If you have a positive relationship with that agent and the offers are exactly the same, that listing agent's probably going to go with you because they like you a little bit more and they know you're easy to work with and they know you're a good person and they know you're probably bringing a strong client. Always agent relationships. Real estate professionals, like I said, I always hear them out. Always want more contacts and I want the best services for my clients. So mentors are probably one of the things that I've learned the most from. We don't know everything in this industry, no matter how long we've been in it. And I've learned that very quickly. I think I learned something new every day. I think Christy, our broker, who's been in the business for forever, not forever, 20, she's been in it for a little while and has seen a lot more than I have. She'd probably tell you that she's still learning new things. So there's always something to be learned in this business. Does anyone know how to get a mentor or how to build a relationship with someone? It's really easy. Any guesses? I'll take a swing at it. Well, there's one way. If there's someone, there's always someone, another agent, it doesn't have to be in our market, that everyone has seen and they just love what they do, or someone that it doesn't even have to be an agent, someone in your life that you just love who they are and you want to learn more about. In the agent world, there's really one simple way. In the real world, there's one simple way that I have to build a relationship with anyone, whether it be a mentor, whether you want them to be a friend. And it's simple. Provide value first. That's it. If you provide value first to someone, guess what? There's already a relationship there. So I don't go about my mentors and people I want to learn from saying, hey, can you tell me about this? What value is it to them for them to tell me the secret sauces of their business? There's no value there. What am I providing except taking knowledge from them? So what do you do in situations like that? And I'll give you an example. I watched Crystal. I watched Crystal one time at an event at the Remax office, and I won't say who the agent was. I'll say she's not here anymore. So another agent walked up to Crystal. Of course, Crystal she's been around. She's seen it all. She's done a lot of business. She said, hey, I'm at a price point that I've never worked in. I'm not comfortable and I'm not confident with it. Can you tell me what I need to do in this price point to secure this listing? I really want it bad and I just don't know what to do. Okay, great. I mean, some people might be okay to tell you some things, but why would someone who spent 15 years working to establish themselves in a business that's super competitive just tell you exactly what to do? Doesn't make any sense, right? But if that person had walked up to someone like Crystal, and it could be anyone, and said, you know what, Crystal, I know you're really good at stuff like this. I want to offer you 25%. I'm going to list you as a co-agent. I'd like for you to come with me on the listing appointment just for confidence sake. And then that's all you have to do. Beyond that, I just want you to be a phone call away in case I need something. Guarantee she'd have said yes to that. Guarantee any agent would have said yes to that. I mean, Preston's really good at condos. Condos are not, I mean, they're somewhat common around Lexington, but they're not crazy common. You may never have had a condo listing. I've never had one. Preston, I've got a condo listing. Can I offer you 25% to be a co-agent on it, learn a little bit from you? Guarantee Preston would say yes. So that's just some examples of what you could do to provide value. And not only that, it doesn't have to be monetary or commission based. What's something in your business right now that you're struggling in or need help in? Anything?
Well, I just flipped a FISBO and I needed to tear it. But
Yeah.
I asked her to go with us, it's a farm.
Right.
I watched your farm
Right.
presentation, but it's a big price.
Right.
I knew I needed help and we're co-listed.
Knew and needed help and co-listed. Yeah, did exactly that. And now you got a mentor for it. And guess what? You're probably going to learn. Right. Yeah, exactly. So stuff like that really helps. And if you think about other issues that agents have, agents struggle with getting signs out sometimes whenever they're heavy on listings. Agents struggle with stuff like that. They don't want to go get the lock boxes. They don't want to do the showings for all their buyers that they have. Like, there's a lot of buyers right now and they feel that I'd rather go out to eat with my friends or family tonight. Can I pay you a little bit to do it? Or maybe I'll just do it. Let me learn from you. I'll just do this work for you. I know that's busy work for you. I want to do it. That's value right there. It doesn't always have to be monetary. So that's what I'm getting at. Provide value first and people will come and you will learn from them. So I've learned another thing in this business and I've hit on it some, and that's to always be a student. I learn something every single day. I've seen agents out there that are older and I don't know if they think it, but they definitely act like they're too experienced to learn anything. But I've learned something new every day. I read books for over a year before I got in this industry and realized that I was overanalyzing everything that real estate had to do. I learned more in my first year of just doing it than I did in an entire year of just reading books on real estate. So you really are never too experienced to learn. Another thing that I've hit on, learn from your mistakes. You're going to make them. The only thing you can do is learn from them. So how I like to learn. So I like to learn through personal experiences, which is what I kind of talked about just a second ago. Sometimes you just got to jump into it. You can't really think too much about it. You just got to jump into it. I also learn from podcasts. I listen to podcasts all the time when I'm in the car. I really like the coaches, the real estate coaches of the world, listening to them, because I think they're really high level thinkers. And I love listening to high level thinkers in this industry talk about it. I had one that I listened to. He explained why the market, and this was months ago before it got really crazy. He explained why we were in a buyer's market, not sellers. And I almost just completely dismissed him without listening to it. But when he explained it, it made so much sense. Basically, it came down to this. He said, if I told you your house was going to be worth 5 to 10% more at least next year, would it be smart to buy or sell? And my mind was blown. I was like, why wouldn't you buy? If it's worth 5 or 10% more now than it was a year from now, why wouldn't you buy that house? So and he explained it as a buyer's market. And I know there's a lot of uncertainty with it, but I just truly think that a lot of those guys on those podcasts are super, super high level. There's a lot to be learned from just the mindset alone. They might not give you any tips that are new or great to you, but the way they think will put you in a different level. I read a lot of books. I've started a lot of the books I used to read were a lot of real estate related books. And I feel like I've learned after a certain point, they kind of start repeating the same things. Every so often you get a book that'll teach you something new, and I like to pick those up. I've kind of started getting more into the mindset books because I just think that this industry is so people-based and mindset-based, and I want to understand the psychology of people. I want to understand how people think. I want to understand how people act in certain situations. And I've kind of started getting more into those kind of books, but I do read a lot of real estate agent books, investing books. I like investing a lot. Those can probably be a little bit boring. Not everybody likes books, but I really, really like books, and mentors, of course. I learn a lot from mentors, not just from Crystal. I mean, Crystal's probably the biggest mentor that I have, but there's a lot of other people in this industry that I've learned a lot from. You just have to spend time with them. And like I said, provide value first, and the value that they provide will be infinitely greater than the value that you've provided to them, I promise. So some additional advice that I'll leave you with is just to say yes and figure it out. And that kind of comes with, it's really, really hard to do. Like you said, you got a farm listing, right? And you had no idea what to do, right? But you just said yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you just, of course, you've got a client. I've got a client, or you've got a client that is got an asset class you've never done much about. I'm an expert. Of course I am. Why wouldn't you say yes to that? That makes no sense. And then figure it out. And that's whenever you could ask someone for help on it or learn as you go along the way. You don't have to know that you don't know what you're doing. I mean, if you're really outside of your element on something, you probably need to admit that. But say yes, figure it out as you go. If you start to get out of your element, that's when you can ever admit. Have supreme confidence. If I've learned anything, that's no matter how confident you look or feel, go in there at least looking like you're confident as heck. I am the best agent in town, and there's nobody better than me. You go on a listing appointment, you're confident, you're talking to them, you're relating to them. They won't think a thing of it. I mean, I'm probably, and I'll admit I'm probably a little baby faced and young, but I've gone into every appointment that I've ever met with someone with supreme confidence. You know how many people ask me about my age on a daily basis? Clients, it usually takes a few interactions for them to ask me about my age. Agents will ask me about my age 10 times more than clients will. You seem kind of young. When did you start? How long you been in the business? I get that all the time from agents. Don't ever hear that from clients. You know why? Because I'm super confident whenever I'm talking with them. One of the things I've also learned is just be honest and genuine. Whenever I go in a house and I'm showing it to them, I'm really not trying to sell it to them. I'm pointing out things that I noticed about it. My parents are home inspectors. I'm pointing out things that they've taught me about houses. I look like a genius in front of them because I'm pointing out things that they'd never notice. Hey, that electrical panel over there, you don't want that. That's step lock. It's going to cost you $1,000 to replace it. Home inspector is going to say that they're going to flag it and then it needs to be replaced. Electrician quoted $1,000 to my client last week. They're going to love that. They're going to think you're the smartest person on the planet at that point. And that actually happened to me. The exact situation. Told a guy that had seen it last week, told him what it was, explained it to him, why it wasn't safe. And he ended up, I mean, it didn't scare him at all because when we went under contract, guess what? Came up on the home inspection report, didn't question it. He said, yep, Logan already told me that. Looked like a genius in front of him because I was honest and genuine with him. I didn't go in there trying to sell the house to him. I went in there and told him, hey, this house is really good. Let's think about these things first. If you're okay with these things, let's proceed. It was honest to him. What would you, and we don't have to, we could go into it. If you had to tell yourself one piece of advice from your first, that you've learned at any point in your first days of real estate, if you could go back in time and give yourself one piece of advice, what would it be? And if I could get a couple of you to share, that'd be great. And I can wait a minute. See if anybody on Zoom wants to. Really?
My last one, my advice would be, my last clients bought some land. They kept wanting to prep the land because they were getting a mobile home and they had 2 weeks to get it on the land. There were already mobile homes that had to be taken off. I didn't want them to touch this land until we were under contract until we closed. But I thought, they wanted to, sellers were okay. Okay, we get to close. 2 days before title comes back, there's an ex-husband on the selling side, I'm on the buying side.
Yeah.
We have took 2 trailers off of this. They've spent a fortune. They spent $5,000 moving electrical posts because they bought a massive 5-bedroom double wide.
Yeah.
What am I going to do? Like, I made no money on it. I go to the jail. The husband's at Fayette County Jail. I had to take summer to be my notary and talk this inmate into signing. He hated his ex-wife. She's living with a new husband on another piece of their land.
Yeah.
And I had to talk him into signing quickly.
Wow.
I did it.
Yeah.
I'll never let anybody touch land.
Yeah. I mean, if you had to go back, would you tell yourself that story?
Yes, I would tell, and I advised, well, I didn't feel right about it. I was like, no, you don't, I don't know, something could happen.
Yeah.
But we need to do this, and everybody's okay with it. But something that's going to come up.
Yeah, it's true. Swella, if you had to give yourself one piece of advice, what would you tell yourself in your first year or in your first days even? don't know if she can hear me. I think you're muted, Swella.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Okay, just don't sweat everything. I thought I had to be a pro to sell real estate. I just kept taking classes and, watching YouTube. You just have to get out there and do it and learn as you go.
Yeah. I feel like there's
I made a lot of mistakes and I learned from them.
Yeah.
So you just have to get out there and do it.
Yeah. Yeah. There's yeah, you're exactly right. You just kind of got to take that leap of faith, just say yes and figure it out as you go. I've had a lot of that. I had a $1 million client pretty early on from an open house in my first probably 4 months of doing it. $1 million client, showed him a bunch of houses, was working with pretty hard, was even mailing out letters, trying to find him something. And I get a call one day from him, and I'm in the shower, and I get out of the shower and notice the call stop. Of course, I get clothed, get dried off, and go to call him back. Nothing. It was within 2 minutes of the missed call. Nothing. Didn't hear from him. Called him again later that night to see like, hey, what was going on? This is on a Thursday. They finally, after me texting and calling them to figure out what it was that they called about, texted me on Sunday and said, hey, I just wanted to let you know, we ended up going with another agent and getting the property under contract. We found them on Zillow. Sorry. Said, but we did want to talk to you about something. This other agent that's got us under contract for this $1 million house, they said that they can list our currently $300,000 house for 4% commission. I know you've worked hard for us, and we'd like to offer that listing to you if you can match that. I said no. I said if I were to, well, I said no, and I'll tell you why. I said I feel as though if I were to accept that, I would be accepting the fact that you don't think that I'm worth full pay, and that you don't think that I'm worth the pay of another agent. I'd also be very quick to discredit myself. And if I'd be that quick to discredit myself, how quick would I be to discredit your home whenever someone's putting in an offer? I said, I can't do it for that. I said, I'll do it for 6. He's never heard from him again. He was in the business world and he said, I understand. He said, I wouldn't do it either. It was really hard. That would have been my first listing, very first listing at that point. So that was a very tough thing to swallow. I mean, maybe the mistake I made was not getting them signed. Best believe if I'm working for $1 million tomorrow, I'm going to start working on it today and not wait until tomorrow. So one of the mistakes I've made. What about you, April or Sharon? Have you made any mistakes or have any advice for your first year, first day self?
I think just not taking things so seriously when you get those things that happen like that, because I had a situation very similar with my sister. Got on Zillow. She didn't understand the process, and instead of contacting me, she believed that there was actually an agent already assigned to that house for the buyer, and it would have been my very first sale, and she's just young and naive, and I wanted to salvage the relationship because she's my sister. Yeah. But I really did take it hard, but looking back on it, I wouldn't have taken it so hard because there are so many things out there, and I know we work on commission, but there is enough for us that want to work.
Right.
It's my sister. I would not take that as so seriously as I did before. Those serious relationships that I have, I want to keep those anyway, even if that stuff happens. So
yeah. Well, it's not worth burning that bridge either.
No, and she knows now, she knows, and from now on I believe that I'll get those, but it was hard. That one was really hard.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that'd be tough for me to accept. I had a friend do something similar not too long ago. His excuse was, but it wasn't on Zillow. He was using a different agent. He said, oh, well, my mom's doing everything for me. I said, I can't even trust you to have my back against your mom. How do I trust you to have my back against anybody? Like, you don't support me. So then that was a tough conversation. So, but yeah, that happens more often than I wish it did. It's pretty bad. Well, thank you, April. Thank you for sharing. Sharon, how about you?
I'm actually so new that I haven't even got my license fully. I'm waiting for it actually to get approved. So
Nice.
I'm listening and I'm making notes.
Yeah. Well, retweet, I guess, to everything that we've talked about.
Yeah, there's just so many things, when you're learning, and I've always learned my best advice for anybody is just to listen sometimes.
Yeah.
Because I've learned a lot during this, but I would not have had if I didn't come and listen to this. So
yeah,
I'm taking notes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I appreciate that. Well, that leads me kind of to my next point. I don't know if anyone does, and I know I've covered kind of a lot, well, a little about a lot. But if anybody has questions, hit me.
How do you feel about buying leads from Zillow and Realtor.com?
So we've bought them from Realtor.com, and those leads are, I'd say, better than the ones I've experienced with Zillow. And I'm not the one that pays for them, so I don't know the exact cost of them. I would say most of them at first, I probably get 50% answer rate on a lot of them. Beyond that, I mean, I convert maybe 5% of the ones that answer. I mean, it's pretty low conversion, but the Realtor.com ones seem to be cheaper and convert a little bit higher. Paid leads are, I think sometimes people act like they're a little bit more negative than they are. I don't have an issue with them, but I like the Realtor.com ones.
Yeah, and something I found out this year too is if you're selling real estate, you got to have some expenses. So
yeah,
or the end of the year at tax time, you're going to have some issues if you don't have expenses. So that would probably be some of the best expenses, to have.
Yeah,
I know. Yeah, no, sometimes you send out postcards, then you can buy leads. So I'm reconsidering, buying the leads.
Yeah. Well, and when they're on Zillow and Realtor.com, I mean, they're on there for a reason. They may say just looking, but like they're there for a reason. Either mama's about to move, I'm thinking about moving the next year. Like you're not just, it's never as much curious as they may act like it is. You really got to follow up with them and keep going through. I usually don't follow or stop following up with them until they tell me to die or F off or block me or to say they're going to sue me or something like that. So I just keep hitting them.
Yeah, I agree with you. And, sometimes it takes a year that you can,
Oh yeah.
you have to deal with them a year and then they're ready to buy, so.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got one that came in 6 or 7 months ago that is now starting to look like they're about to buy here soon. And I wouldn't have gotten that if I hadn't continued to nurture that lead and talk to them every couple of weeks and ask them how they're doing and say, is there anything you need and things like that. So
right.
When you contact with those that keep changing their mind, like do you reach out like once a month or?
Yeah, usually. So like what I'll usually do is when a new lead comes in, I'll hit them a lot really early on. I try to hit them if I get a new lead, whether it's from like a paid lead or anything like that, I'll try to call them as soon as possible within the first 5 minutes if I'm available. But then beyond that, I'll hit them a few times in the first couple of days. If they don't answer, I might leave them alone for a little while. If I get an answer and they kind of sound wishy-washy about it, maybe I leave them alone. I had a guy not long ago. He pretty much told me, he said, no, I think we're good. You could take me off your list. And I ended up just deciding a couple of weeks later, I'm gonna call him again. And he called him again and he was like, yeah, I think we want to buy a house. Like he completely forgot. He basically told me to screw off 2 weeks ago. And all of a sudden he's my buddy again because he wants to see a house because I knew there was one interested in. So it just depends on the situation.
When you want to say Realtor.com, is that Opcity?
No, so actual Realtor.com leads. Yeah. So the Opcity ones, I've not gotten any Opcity in a while.
Realtor.
Yes, they're Realtor.com leads.
That's the ones that I've closed my first service.
Yeah.
Opcity.
Have you been getting any lately?
I have my own personal clients right now and I can juggle like 4 at a time.
Yeah.
So I've turned it off.
Yeah.
But that's my very first three, the only closings I've had, like
Yeah.
it's been. what,
My first two were through Op City. I think,
Yeah.
I
So
think,
when you were saying realtor.com,
Yeah.
I thought that was.
no, those are paid, like you pay monthly by zip code and like a certain amount. And the way Realtor.com does it is you can get into like a pool of agents. So it'll send like, when a lead goes out, it'll send it to like 3 or 4 different agents that are in that pool. And it's like Op City, and it's just, whoever converts it gets it, but you can also pay a little bit more in Realtor.com to get the lead just to
Okay.
you.
As Op City, you pay that referral.
Right, yeah, you pay
Got
so
it.
it's just a monthly subscription thing
Okay.
with them by zip code, and Zillow is very similar. They do it not quite like that, but very similar. It's by zip code as well, and you pay a certain amount for shares on a zip code, and
That's nice when you get everything.
yeah, Zillow is,
Op City 2 was London.
Yeah.
Which isn't bad for me because
Right.
I'm always in London.
yeah. I've noticed Zillow is definitely more expensive than Realtor.com, and I don't know that they're any more motivated. So, I mean, if you want the paid leads, I'd compare both of them and look at some other ones. But yeah, we do Realtor.com, and I like those. I don't have a ton of experience with Zillow other than the experience we have done. It was more expensive, and they didn't convert as high. So, any other questions? Well, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap this up if nobody has any more questions, but I appreciate you all coming. If there's anything I can ever do to help you all, I'm still learning too, but I'm more than happy to help you all how I can. But you know where to find me if you have any questions or need help with anything. But super happy that my first year went pretty well, and hope Sharon, I hope your first year goes well, and hope you all continue to have very successful years. So. All right. See you all.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Yeah, absolutely.